Hi, I'm Femi OK. You're watching the stream. It has been a week since the hugely popular Oromo activist and musician Hachalu Hundessa was murdered and assassinated. So, a week after that event happened, we are going to dig deeper into the political tensions that have resulted in political prisoners, the internet being shut down, and protesters on the streets. We have a huge and mighty Ethiopian diaspora community. I know you're online. I know you're watching this show already. So if you have a comment to add it to the chat, and you too can be part of this conversation. I will say hello to the guests. The guests will greet you. Hello, Awol. Please tell our audience who you are.
Hello everyone, my name is Ola Solomon. I am from Ethiopia. I currently teach at Kiel University School of Law in the UK.
It's good to have you. Zalalem, welcome to the stream. Introduce yourself to our international audience.
Hello everyone, my name is Zalalem. I'm an international lawyer working in an international organization.
Good to have you. Welcome back to the stream. Alula, thank you for joining us again. Tell everybody who you are.
Thank you for having me. My name is Ola Solomon. I'm the CEO of Tigray Media House and I live in Washington, D.C.
Now, you may have heard there is no government representative in this conversation. That is an important thing to add because we invited the government. They said yes, they agreed. Because of the internet shutdown, they were only able to join via the phone. Because of the internet shutdown, we are not able to have them join this show because this show is a virtual show and everybody has to connect via the internet. This is very unfortunate and also a big point of our conversation today. So let us start with this incredible Oromo musician. I know, Awol, that you did a tribute to him. You wrote about him. You spoke about him. He started the most recent protests amongst the Oromo community. Tell us a little bit about what he meant to the Oromo community, what Ethiopia is missing from his passing.
He is a towering musical figure. He is a cultural icon among the Oromo community who played a decisive, consequential role in galvanizing support for the 2015-2018 Oromo protest movement, which actually played the most part in ushering the current prime minister onto power. He is somebody which had an incredible capacity in terms of reading the political landscape and finding the kind of the poetic expression, the verbal invention that spoke to people in a very direct and immediate way. So losing him is an incalculable loss to the Oromo community in particular. But I think he is somebody who has accomplished at the age of 34 what millions of us could not really or could only hope to accomplish in our lifetime.
I want to go to my colleague Mohammed who did a report about Hundessa's funeral. So you can see what a huge figure Hundessa actually was. Let's have a look.
The funeral for Ethiopian singer Hachalu Hundessa was held in his native Ambo town as unrest over his death spread from the Oromia region, where he was seen as a hero. The crowds of mourners were not as big as anticipated. Many said they had been turned away by police, uneasy that the funeral procession could turn into another protest. The singer was shot dead in the capital Addis Ababa on Monday. The motive for his killing remains unclear. The musician and activist embodied the aspirations of Ethiopia's largest ethnic group, the Oromo. His songs focused on the rights of the Oromo people and became anthems in a series of protests that led to the downfall of the previous prime minister in 2018.
Zalalem, I'm just looking at a headline from Jazeera.com here. More than 160 killed in Ethiopia protests over singer's murder. Can you help us understand why would that happen? Why would there be so much violence over an assassination, but then violence on the people who were trying to honor him, trying to go to the funeral It seems like a tragedy on top of a tragedy.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me take this opportunity to express my deepest condolences to everyone grieving the death of Hachalu and other innocent citizens who were killed last week in Oromia region and Addis Ababa. Hachalu was a very bright and I would say free-spirited singer, and his death came as a very shocking news to all of us, regardless of our ethnic and ideological differences. I think the death of Hachalu is certainly a high-profile assassination, but it's by no means an isolated incident. It is one among similar incidents that we have seen in the last 3 years in the country. And his murder came against a background where we saw the opposition and the government were already trading insults and threats, especially after the election was postponed. And of course, the crisis that ensued his death and what has transpired thereafter once more showed the existence of a deeper social and political problem in the country. The killing of innocent citizens is another episode from years of hate-driven nationalist propagandas, and as well as a disagreement in historical narratives. And still, we don't know, especially, we don't know, and we don't have clear evidence to see who was the killer and who was killed. The government has its own narrative, and the opposition has its own narrative. But all in all, it shows the bigger picture.
Right,
that there is a serious.
Let me bring in Olula. I hear where you're going with this. Olula, let me share this tweet with you. This is from Emmanuel. Emmanuel says, Hakulu's murder is just a trigger. Radical ethno-nationalism and nativist entitlement at the root of the unrest. Your take is what?
This is a very simplified statement to the deep-rooted problem that we have in the country. For the last 2 years, the country has been through a very volatile situation, and it was actually characterized as what you call it, a synonym to days of high-profile people. For example, you can take the assassination of the Chief of Staff, General Saare Mokonnen, and the Amhara Regional State Leader, Dr. Ambacho, and other high-profile leaders in the country. So I don't want to say that it's because of the narrative that we have from different ethnic groups. It's a very simplified statement for me to call that this unrest is a result of ethnic narratives. The leadership of Abiy Ahmed actually is not a reformist for me. It's a restorationist leadership, and it has been in tension with the Tigray regional state leadership for the last 2 years. Now, as we speak, it has blocked internet access in the country, and it also blocked TV stations like independent TV stations like OMN and the Tigray TV and another TV station called Dimtz Oyana. So it's really sad that the situation that we are in as a country is really sad. And on top of that, the days of Hachalu Hundessa exacerbated the situation. Hachalu was a voice not only to the Oromo, but he was a voice to nations and nationalities in Ethiopia. it's really shocking, and I consider it as a murder, as a days to democracy, to different in opinion, and to the demand of self-administration in different parts of the country, because he's been voicing for self-administration, self-determination of the Oromo.
All right, so I want to put this to you, Guess. I was in touch with the office of the Prime Minister earlier on today, and again, we're having issues getting their content onto our show. We tried really hard, but one of the things that I heard was the media entities are fanning the flames, and that there are rumors going around which aren't true, and that this is a politically motivated assassination. These are the government's response to a lot of what is being talked about right now, Awol. How would you respond to that?
Before I respond to that, I just want to say one very quick point in relation to your question about that tweet. This notion that what is creating the current unrest and the turmoil is the ethnically informed or ethnically based narrative that is around for the last 20, 30 years. That, I think, in of itself is a narrative that is being deliberately pursued by some very powerful elements within the Ethiopian state. And now I think it's also supported by the Office of the Prime Minister itself. And this is, I believe, being used as a justification to facilitate the Prime Minister's intention to dismantle the multinational federal order that the country has and return the country to a unitarian type of system, so that he would be the only person that would have the ultimate say in everything that happens in the country. So I think it's important to note that that in of itself is the narrative that fits into a particular kind of political interest in the Ethiopian context. In terms of the government's response that this is a politically motivated assassination, of course it is a politically motivated assassination, but the question is who really has the motivation to assassinate Hachalu Hundessa. There might be multiple actors who would have the interest to assassinate him, but that includes the government as well. He was a voice that stood for a particular kind of politics in the country, and somebody who had the following, the respect and the love of people, and what he says would be heard. There are certain people who simply find his voice absolutely intolerable, and eliminating him is the only way for them to get their way, to set out the kind of vision that they have.
Let me bring in Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. This is what he said in the wake of Hundessa's death. Let's have a listen.
What our enemies want is that we don't finish the work that we've started, that the Oromo people, for this reason, fight, are killed, that blood is spilled, that the journey that we've started gets derailed.
So, Africa for Life, there's so much going on online. YouTube, thank you so much. We're having a vibrant conversation online. Africa for Life makes a good point. When are you going to talk about all the good Abiy has done? He talks about misinformation and tactics. Zalalem, there has been reforms, democratic reforms. Where are you now compared to a year ago in Ethiopia? Is this a setback? Is Ethiopia going in the right direction regarding democratic reforms, even though there's no internet, which means that we can't have a government spokesperson on? Where are you? Talk about the good that Abiy has done.
Before I go to that question, let me say a few words regarding what I was said earlier. I think we should understand that there are serious problems, especially in the Ethiopian media cycle. There are these ethnic-based media which have been broadcasting hate-driven propaganda. I can mention what was happening in the last few days. For example, we can mention the Oromo media, even the Tigray Media House. They have been broadcasting hate speech, and some of them were actually calling for extermination of minorities who are living in Oromia region. So I think that
every,
fact should
every
be.
media in Ethiopia, every media in Ethiopia is conflict by nature.
Coming back to your question, I think Prime Minister is one of the Prime Minister Abiy is one of the most progressive leaders that we have seen in the recent history of the country. He has released many prisoners. Of course, there was a contribution of the public protest that led him to come to power. But we have mentioned the blocking of internet. Blocking of internet is not the first time that we have seen blockage of internet was there in the last 27 years when the Tigrayan Liberation Front was in
Zelalem, you
power.
make a very good point. Zelalem. Just saying multiple times, I know it's hard for you to hear me because we're all connecting via the internet. I got a message on Twitter a few days ago, and it said, I am so fed up with the internet being closed down every time that there are protests, every time there's some discomfort for the government, whether it's this current government, if it's previous current governments, why is it that the internet is shut down? Remembering that Ethiopia right now is tackling COVID-19, people are at home, people are trying to do their work at home, that it is really irritating for people not to have the internet. Saying that another government, another administration also shut down the internet does not necessarily make it right now. Ricardo, thank you for being on the internet with us. Appreciate that, Ricardo. Ricardo says that there are people who are hired by Abiy Ahmed to spread false information on the social media. So both sides of this debate are claiming that there is false information. I am just wondering, Alula, about this promise, this amazing
I can
situation.
say something on this.
If I may, I'm not going to get stuck on the media, even though I'm part of the media. I'm going to push on. Allow me, Alula, allow me to push on. Otherwise, it's going to be at the end of the show. And we've only ever spoken about the media. All right. So there was this promise, this enthusiasm for Abiy Ahmed as Prime Minister. He is from the Oromo ethnic group. People were very excited that he could bring unity to Ethiopia. What do you think about where we are now with Ethiopia? Is he facing?
I don't consider as Oromo nationalist. I don't consider Abiy as Oromo nationalist because the aspiration of the Oromo people is to have their own right and to live with other nations and nationalities in Ethiopia peacefully and in harmony. But they want to have their own self-administration, their questions to be answered, their demands to be addressed. But Abiy has never been committed to address all these questions. So I from day one we called Abiy. Let me finish. I let you finish. Zalalem, I let you finish. Let me finish. I let you finish.
I think let's make it clear. Okay,
I know that people had reason.
Zalalem, just for the sake of everyone hearing each other, I will finish your thought in one sentence. Go ahead.
People had reason at the very beginning. People had reason to be very optimistic with regard to the leadership of Abiy Ahmed when he released. Of course, it was a promise by the previous leader and a result of reform by the EPRDF. But I would like to give him credit for that, for releasing prisoners, for opening up the media. But what we have right now is a total blockade of internet communication in the country. All independent media are banned.
Okay, so we speak back to that point again. So let Zalalem go ahead.
Two TV stations are closed right now.
You're going back in circles.
With regard to
give it a pause just for a moment. You're going back in circles. You're reinforcing an argument you've already made. Reinforce. Zalalem, go ahead.
No, I was saying, I think these accusations against the Prime Minister are somehow caricatured, I would say, because the Prime Minister has been trying to unify a country that he has inherited, which was quite divided. Of course, there are some limitations, but to accuse him being, for example, against self-administration it is a total lie. We can take the Sidama people. The Sidama people were asking for self-administration for 27 years, and the TPLF didn't respond to that question, and the Prime Minister could manage to respond in less than 2 years. How come we say that he's anti-democratic?
But the Sidama defended and implemented their right with their sacrifice.
I love that you
gave them
but people were dying for the last 27 years. Sidama people were dying
died
for
because
the last
they asked
27 years.
they demanded statehood.
But
People from Sidama died because they demanded statehood.
Gentlemen, all right, just
Yes.
for the sake of the YouTube audience, okay, just give them a little bit of a break. They hear that you are deep in conversation on YouTube, and I really want to put this to you, Awal. People are asking for Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to step down. They say he needs to resign. Part of this is due to the fact that the October elections have been postponed until I'm not too sure when. Is this a call for resignation? Is this just YouTube sounding off? Or is this something that is a reasonable thing to ask in his current situation? Oh, well, go ahead.
I think the Prime Minister absolutely mismanaged the once in a generation opportunity he had to fix the Ethiopian state. The most important mandate he had when he came to power was to foster reconciliation and build national consensus and create a space for healing within the Ethiopian state. What did he do? He spent a considerable part of his time focusing on vanity projects that would not advance the deeper fractures that the Ethiopian state had. What this violence that we are seeing now indicates is really the deeper fracture that exists within the Ethiopian state. What the Prime Minister needed to do was basically to address that question. And really the serious problem on the part of the Prime Minister, I don't think he actually understands the complex structural challenges, the sociological questions that kind of affected the social relations and ruptured the social tissues that at some point, to a certain extent, bound the Ethiopian people together. And he created, for example, what he called the Prosperity Party, and he dismantled the kind of structure that, in the past, to a certain extent, provided ethnic groups, nations, and nationalities with still some institutional mechanism to be represented. Now, he created this pan-Ethiopian party, and the party uses the state resources to get his messages across. The possibility for a free, fair, and competitive election is almost gone. So, while extending the point at which the election will be held, given the public health emergency in the country, it is somehow understandable. The way in which it is extended, the constitutionally dubious means through which it is done, I think it is all of these things. It's not just the assassination of Hachalu Hundessa that triggered this, it's also these deeper questions.
I want to squeeze this one more comment in because it takes us back to how we started. Riyad Alamu is a journalist, and she had this important point to make about the assassination of a beloved singer and then the fallout from that assassination. Let's have a look.
Immediately after Hachalu's killing, some ethnic extremists inciting young people to commit atrocities. In the result, more than 100 people were slaughtered. Most of them are civilian and Oromos, especially Amharas. Many houses and businesses were burned down. To add insult to the injury, the same people who radicalize the youth are trying to mislead the international communities and media by giving false informations. The other painful thing is the government has arrested not only the persons who were inciting violence, but also opposition figures who are known for their peace-loving personalities.
So much conversation on YouTube. I am so disappointed that we didn't get the government voice onto the program. That's one good reason to perhaps have internet available for every country, despite the conversations and the political conversations that are happening. I did also tap into the Prime Minister's spokesperson, and I heard her say that they wanted a new era of trust and federation for Ethiopia, but it's difficult to see how that happens at this particular stage. Thank you, guests, for being part of this conversation. Thank you, especially YouTube. Your conversation was very vibrant and helped me understand where we're going to go next to as we talk to our guests. That is it for today's conversation. Hopefully see you the next time on Al Jazeera with the stream. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.